intersection of business, technology and healthcare in post-COVID India. I now call upon Ms. Shravya to introduce our today's resource person, MAYUR SHETTY.
Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. A very good afternoon, one and all gathered here. I, Shravya, deem it my privilege to introduce today's resource person, Mr. MAYUR SHETTY. MAYUR SHETTY is the CEO of Blackfrog Technology, a Manipal, Karnataka-based technology startup company, improving immunization supply chains. Under MAYUR's leadership, the company has developed patented technologies for the safe last-mile delivery of temperature-sensitive vaccines, and this has won over 6 national awards and international recognition. The product is being deployed across the nation for routine vaccine and now being adapted for the delivery of COVID-19 vaccine as well. MAYUR is an engineer by training and completed his fellowship at Cambridge University's Just Business School with support from BIRAC Government of India. He now had Blackfrog effort in developing an end-to-end traceability solution for vaccine delivery and building a digital platform to improve the process efficiency in immunization. Having you with us today is indeed an honor, sir. On behalf of SDM PG Center, I extend a warm welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Shravya. I now call upon Ms. Namrata to introduce our today's guest, Mr. NAGESH MOHAN.
Some people dream of success while other people get up every morning and make it happen. I, Namrata Bangera, deem it a great honor to introduce Mr. NAGESH MOHAN, Chairperson of Technical Session 2, Intersection of Business Technology and Healthcare in Post-COVID India. Mr. NAGESH MOHAN has completed BE Civil AC in Bhatkal, Karnataka University, Dharwad in the year 1997. Sir has also completed PGDMB in Marketing and HR in the year 2000 from Kirloskar Institute of Advanced Management Studies in Harihar. He has undergone internship at Toyota Kirloskar, Bidadi in HR. He joined family business from the year 2000 to 2008. He worked as a principal at Sri Guru Sudhindra for BBA, BCA, BCom and BA College Bhatkal from 2000 to 2019. Currently, Sir is working as Managing Partner at Mrs. Kamakshi Auto Service Bhatkal. Having you with us today is indeed an honor, sir. On behalf of SDM PG Center, I welcome you, sir. Now I request Mr. NAGESH MOHAN, sir, to take over the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected dignitaries on the dais, energetic students of SDM PG Center. Very delighted to be here for this national conference post-COVID, the resurgence of business. On a humorous note, the time slot for me and MAYUR, I think probably it's the lunch session which is approaching. So probably before you give me a loud round of applause, I'll just take 3 minutes. Yeah, the world has never witnessed such a human disaster, probably after the Second World War. So no one, honestly, we never anticipated there is going to be a day when nature is going to play some havoc. So entire mankind went into an oblivion. So none of the management theories came to our rescues. None of the statistical tools came to our rescues. So at at the backdrop, today I must congratulate the entire fraternity at SDM PG Center for conducting such a national conference on post-pandemic. So just before me, there were a lot of speakers who have spoken very eloquently with regards to the post-COVID scenario. So I don't want to elaborate on that, but there are certain 2 or 3 things which I would. So the topic that is today, the second technical session is that intersection of business, technology and healthcare. So students, the conventional wisdom which teaches us business school, normally we come across business and we talk about technology. Business is there to create employment and to create wealth, as we all know. Then we know technology is something in simple terms which reduces the human efforts for better efficiencies. Now, this post-COVID, there is one element that has come in that is called healthcare. So people have started becoming health conscious. So one thing that has taught us that we cannot ignore our health issues. Let me get into, this is nothing but these 3 things they are going to synergize. So the post-COVID, the future probably, I think Mayur will take you an insight to the entire synergies of these 3 domains. So only thing I would like to reiterate, not all is worst is over, I can say, but still there is some sense of skepticism in everybody because none of the countries are yet to declare that COVID is from pandemic. None of them have declared it has become an endemic. I think probably we are in anticipation that very soon it will be declared as an endemic. So like any patriotic Indian, I would like to say, only give you a comparative analysis of the 2 largest countries which have 1 billion population. One was the exporter of COVID, other country was our own India, which withstood all the disasters. So I must compliment the government of the day, the entire citizens, coming up to that. So since the topic is resurgence, I would like to add one more word that is called resilience. The resilience is ability to bounce back in difficult times. So India has become an epitome of resilience. In spite of all the hardships, it has done wonderfully during the disaster management. And I'm very sure in the days to come, you will also have a lot of opportunities. You'll also have a lot to contribute and be a very successful person in the society. So I am also an avid student like you today. I would like to hear. I am told that he is a very good orator. It was very nice to share dais with MAYUR SHETTY. So we are all waiting for him. Last but not the least, as they say, India is a spiritual guru. Sarve Santu Niramaya. That means good health for entire world and good future for all of you, those who are sitting here. May God bless you. And I once again thank Director Dr. Seema Shenoy, Madam, then the coordinator for this conference, Madam Sumati, and last but not the least, Madam Rashmi, for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this August gathering and wonderful program that has been organized. I wish you all the best. Thanks one and all.
I request Mayur sir to take over the session.
Good morning. Thank you and my gratitude to Director Dr. Shanai, the PG Center, Madam Sumati, Madam Nayak for having me over today. And I think we're kind of running short of time. I had a structured thing for about an hour where I wanted to split it into 4 quarters of one 15 minutes to talk about what we do at Blackfrog and considering the context of the conference, I want to talk about how we pivoted as a medical device company into serving specifically for COVID-19 mitigation. The second segment is a little bit on some of the other companies also that are doing work in similar lines. And the third aspect, and I think most important and relevant for students, is for you to take up entrepreneurship and be job creators. So I will try to squeeze all of them in so that I will not sink into your lunchtime. Can I get a bit of feel of the room in here? I mean, I see different uniforms, so I'm assuming most of you are doing your MBA. Is that correct? Okay. First year, second year, fourth. Okay. And others? Anybody else in the auditorium? Okay, other institutes as well. Mostly PG. Anybody from undergrad? UG program? All are PG programs. Okay. Can anybody tell me succinctly why you've taken up MBA? Any? Just a very straightforward answer. Why MBA? I mean, you could do a lot of other master's degrees and study a lot of things, right? So why specifically MBA? Anybody who wants to just, because we can go deep into that also. Yes.
To improve learning skills and knowledge.
From in what domain? I mean, what do you want to learn? You can learn with a lot of other PG programs. In MBA specifically, what do you want?
Finance.
Finance. Okay, good. Finance, but what do you want to do after studying?
After studies, I'm going for job, either investment or anything.
Okay, good. You're looking at a job in finance, right? Anybody who's working on finance, who's actually looking at considering entrepreneurship as a career, you guys, I believe entrepreneurship is also part of your curriculum, right? It is taught as well. So, how many of you have thought about or is considering starting your own line of work or starting a business? It's okay, you don't have to be hesitant with your peers. Everybody thinks of running a small business, right? It could be anything from running a small restaurant to a trader to MSME to a technology-based company or anything. I mean, anybody considered very small number. It's a little surprising and a little concerning for MBA. Okay, guys, I will just briefly run you through what we do, and then we'll come back to this. I want to circle the conversation around this itself. So a little bit of context to what we do at Blackfrog. We are a healthcare technology company based out of Manipal. We are an ISO 13485 certified medical devices manufacturer. So back in 2017, we were funded by Government of India through DBT and BHAT. It's under Ministry of Science and Tech to solve some of the pressing problems with vaccine delivery. Fortunately, vaccines are something Government of India takes very seriously, and not just in the context of COVID-19. Like back in the 90s with Mission Indradhanush, India is one of the countries which has had a very successful universal immunization program, and we've covered almost entirety of the population, and in 2014 we declared that we've eradicated polio altogether. So naturally, when COVID-19 struck, India was at the forefront. I mean, it's great that we've had two of the largest manufacturers in India, Serum Institute and Bharat Biotech in India. So that's a great foreign policy edge also, right? We've donated to over 140 countries, the vaccines in itself. But what is crucial other than vaccines is how it is given to you. Like an apple, you eat, if you keep it out overnight, you take a bite of an apple and you keep it out overnight, what happens for the next day? It kind of changes and it starts spoiling, right? So what do you do? I mean, if you want to prevent that, what do you do? Put it in the fridge. Yes, naturally you would put it in the fridge. So most biologicals, it could be your own blood, culture, serum, sputum, any samples that need to be transported, or vaccines. So anybody knows how vaccines work? Vaccines, okay, I'll just very quickly, I don't want to get into the technicalities of it, but vaccines are actually live attenuated viruses, which means they're viruses of the same disease. COVID-19 vaccine is COVID-19 virus in a weakened form. So that when you get a shot of the vaccine, your body is able to fight it. It's quite weak, it's able to fight it. So once you fight it, your body has built up memory. So when you actually get attacked by COVID-19, you're able to fight it off. So essentially that's it. You're just training your own antibodies to fight against the disease. So vaccine in itself means there is a live biological in there. There's an organism, there's a creature, right? And like us, all creatures, what do you think is the temperature in this room right now? Yeah, 18, 19 degrees because of the air conditioning. It's nice, right? Feels good. What happens when you go outside and the temperature is 30, 35? It's a little hot, but it's uncomfortable, but it's okay, right? What happens when the temperature goes to 80, 90 degrees? Then you are very uncomfortable, right? And what happens if it goes beyond 95, 96? Then you die, right? So same thing when it goes down as well. What happens when the temperature is 4, 5 degrees? Very cold, but you're okay, right? What happens when the temperature is minus 30, minus 40? Then you end up dying, right? You go out in the cold. So every organism has a particular spectrum, like a bandwidth between which it is nice and comfortable. Right? For humans, it's this range we talked about. Vaccines have a specific temperature range as well, between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius. That's mostly the standard across the globe. For all vaccines, it's thermostabilized at that temperature so that transport becomes easier. Okay? So, vaccines come from manufacturers in high-end refrigerators. Airplane, it comes first and then it gets into a truck. It gets into the primary health center, sub-centers. From sub-center, they take the vaccines in a box and they bring it to you. And you go to either a school or a center or a hospital where you go and get the shot. Or in a rural remote center, usually vaccines are taken door to door. They take it to each individual houses to vaccinate. Right? If you're in an urban area, typically you go to like a center. Either way. Have you guys seen how the vaccines are brought to you? Have you seen the Anganwadi workers and the Asha workers using the blue boxes? You must have seen it during pulse polio campaign. That's usually what we have in mind, right? Cold vaccines we don't usually see because we're already there and there's a huge facility and everything. So typically they come in these blue boxes. Anybody knows what is inside the blue box? Ice, right? Ice. There is freezing happening. Yes, I'm so glad somebody said freezing. Okay, so one thing that we all tend to overlook is both COVID vaccines that we have in India, Covishield and Covaxin, both are freeze sensitive. So that means they should not be exposed to temperature below 0 degrees Celsius. Am I making sense? Guys, if I'm speaking too fast or if you have any queries, please feel free to just interrupt right there and there. Don't hesitate about this. So, COVID vaccines are freeze sensitive. That means you can't subject them to temperature below 0 degrees. And ice, like somebody said, in itself means frozen. That means we are freezing the vaccines. So, what do you think that will happen? What happens if you expose something to temperature that is not appropriate for it? Spoiled. Essentially spoiled, yeah. Spoiled because the vaccine, the virus is dying, right? It's not in the appropriate temperature, it's dying. So, what happens when you get the shot? No use, exactly. So that's what is the biggest problem that is unaddressed. Typically, we look at vaccine wastage. We look at like vaccines that are not refrigerated properly. Usually, when we look at refrigeration, we think if ice packs melt, then vaccines will go to waste. What we tend to overlook is when the ice pack end up freezing, it's a bigger problem. So, like you said, it's a waste, right? Like you get both of the shots. And it didn't create that immunogenicity, and that's what leads to what is known as breakthrough infection. Everybody must have heard of people who have got both shots of vaccine and still got COVID, right? So that's not the vaccine's fault. Partly, the vaccine has about 90 to 95% efficacy, so there's a 5% window there. But apart from that, how you bring it at every single point of time until it is given to you is very crucial. And this is the problem that Government of India entrusted us to solve back in 2017. And since then, the entire thing. Since then, we've been developing Enfolio, which is a portable medical grade refrigeration system for the last mile delivery of vaccines, blood, culture, serum, sputum. It's a portable system you can wear as a backpack or as a sling bag, carry vaccines, take it to some of the most rural and remote locations in the country, safely, effectively deliver efficacious vaccines. So this is the work we've been doing. I'm very proud to say that we're live in 10 states of India right now. This is a patented system that has been completely designed in India, fully manufactured in India. We have an ISO certified facility where we're able to manufacture about 1500 units per month. 85% of our components are sourced from within India. We are now exporting to the Middle East. We've just started a project with USAID to deliver 100 units to the Republic of Kenya for their fight against COVID-19. So we're just beginning our expansion operations in Kenya as well. We have about 4 office spaces in India catering. Specifically, Northeast India is our focus because inaccessibility and very disaster prone as well. So taking vaccines is a huge challenge. This is something that we've been working on right now. I don't want to get into too much of the business aspect of things, so I'll just talk about some of the impact figures that we've created over the last 3 years. So again, like I said, COVID-19 is not something anybody could predict, and we happened to be in the right place at the right time because we were working on routine vaccines, so we could easily pivot in the direction of COVID-19 vaccines. One of our very trusted customer and a successful use case is in a place called SBYM Hospital. This is in a place called Sangur. It's in Mysore, in Karnataka itself. So Sangur is a small village outside of Mysore, where next to the Nagarhole Reserve Forest. So SBYM Hospital is a charity hospital, and they used to work on immunizing, vaccinating tribal population. So there is, they have a settlement of Jain Kuruva tribes in the outskirts of Nagarhole. So these guys are very inaccessible for vaccination. Typically, people in rural and remote locations don't trust vaccines, right? Healthcare workers have a huge challenge of talking to them about the need of vaccines, ensuring it takes an entire day. So typically they start around 7 o'clock in the morning. It takes an entire day, and by about 9 o'clock they come back. And the ice-based systems don't last that much time. They end up melting, and you end up administering vaccines like somebody said, quote unquote waste. So that's the thing. I mean, the burden of administering a vaccine that has lost the potency is something that cannot even be measured. We repeatedly vaccinate people, and vaccines are very expensive. You might know that, like, COVID vaccines cost around 900 rupees per dose, right? Even polio vaccines are quite expensive. Just that government of India bears that cost themselves. That's why we are not aware of it. But government of India cares about eradicating polio to such an extent that typically you need 3 to 5 doses of polio drops. In India, there is no consent. If during pulse polio campaign, the doctors literally snatch babies and they'll give them polio drops, because that's how desperate we are to get ahead of polio. So that means we are vaccinating many more times than what is necessary, because we know that there's a chance our vaccine might not work because of all of the other jugaad that we do in between, right? So that's very problematic. It's a huge economic burden that the nation has to face, and it's an operational issue as well. How much can we keep doing the same thing again and again with this brute force approach, right? You need an efficient system, you need a cut-through, sharp system to break through this. So this is what we've been doing. We are a team of 55 working on solving some of the other challenges associated with vaccine delivery. Specifically, our focus is immunization, but we work on a slightly broader level of immunization service delivery as well. So like I mentioned, presently we are focusing on Africa because Kenya has, India is claiming about 95%, I think, population fully, both doses administered, right? Kenya is less than 8% right now. So that means there's a huge population that is not being administered with even a single dose of vaccine, and that's something that we are trying to address with our solution. And as part of our next scope of work, we are now working on building an immunization service delivery mechanism. We're working on a management information system for just to give you context, unfortunately the shoes you get on Amazon has more traceability than the vaccines that we receive. Uh, we treat vaccines like it's fruits and vegetables itself. So that's what we're trying to fix. So back in 2015, US FDA and CDC had mandated that we have barcodes. You have QR codes on everything you buy now, right? If it's a shoe, on Amazon you're able to track exactly where the shoes are. I mean, has it left the depot? Is it en route? Is it reached your location? All of it. Even Swiggy for that matter, Swiggy or Zomato, right? The food you have like so much of traceability. Vaccines, unfortunately, we don't. We don't know who the manufacturer is, what the batch was, what the make is, what lot did it come from. This causes a lot of problems when there is adverse effect following immunization. So earlier I talked about poor cold chain, right? So one of the things when you don't store it appropriately. So I gave the example of an apple where apple is, you keep buying it, keep it out, it gets spoiled. That's one thing. But what happens if you eat it? You fall sick. Yeah. So you eat a bad apple, you fall sick, right? Same principle. You get a vaccine that is not stored appropriately. There is something called AEFI, which is adverse effect following immunization. That means there's a side effect. Yes, exactly. So that's very crucial because there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy to begin with. First of all, a lot of people don't want to take the vaccines, and then there are a lot of groups. Religious groups who are against vaccines, and there are a lot of conspiracy theories. A lot of people talk a lot of things about how vaccines cause a lot of health issues. I'll just roundly close it at health issues. So and it's very hard to overcome that. So when there is an AFI following vaccination, it's very tricky for healthcare workers to kind of get the people to overcome it and take the vaccine. So we help with pharmacovigilance. So the manufacturers usually have this thing where they are able to figure out where the vaccines are going, which batch, which lot, which manufacturer. So right now, when you get your vaccines, how do you prove you are you? As in, how do you prove your identity? Aadhaar card, right? Yeah. So presently, Government of India prefers the Aadhaar card. So Government of India wants to move towards an immunization schedule card. Like you have the malls have the card for all of the games, right? Like you get a card, or even some of the Apollo, the retail outlet, yeah, they have their card, right? So it's an NFC based card. Usually it's got data on you, right? Like either your name and things, or like your credit history and like what you purchased. So in similar way, Government of India wants to work on a card which has data on what vaccines have already been administered, what vaccines were due. So what we are suggesting is every time you give a vaccine, you touch it against a product, you take the vaccine schedule card, you touch it against the product, so that you're never at risk of say if you have to get a hepatitis A vaccine, there's always a risk you might get hepatitis B vaccine. That is clear. Expired vaccine, recalled vaccine, counterfeit vaccine. There's so much of black market activities going on with COVID-19 vaccine specifically. So we are able to monitor all of that. We are able to see where the vaccines are going, who's getting it, who's being left out, where it's being covered. Vaccines have very limited resource, right? Like, let's say in Mumbai itself, if there is a sudden outbreak, if Dharavi has an outbreak, you can't go and immunize Thane, right? Mapping out where the outbreaks are, where the hotspots are, and addressing it that way is very crucial, and it's part of supply chain management that is usually overlooked. That's something that we are fixing right now. This is a little bit on our work. I'm going to move on to the next section. So if you guys have any queries in between, please just interrupt me. It's okay. If I'm going too fast about something, I know this is very technical, so I don't want to get into too details of this. But the larger point I'm trying to make here is to get more of you to get into entrepreneurship. There's a reason that India needs more entrepreneurs, mostly. So there isn't a whole lot of faith in undergrads of India, right? Undergrad in India is more like a high school in the West right now, where everybody's got a degree, but hireability or your skill set is probably not at that standard that the industry requires right now. So PG has become kind of mandatory for the industry right now. So, and that means while you guys are at the forefront of what the industry wants, it's also just as imperative that you look at the country and the need for job creation. So that's a broader case that I would like to make. You guys might be aware that India is a very young country, right? Like, unlike China with its aging population, our strength is in the fact that our population is younger. You understand, the older population is usually dependent on the government. Younger population is what gives to the government, and the revenue comes from the younger people. That also has its own problem. I mean, 200 to 400 million youth coming into workforce, which means job creation is very, very crucial. When there aren't enough jobs, it's just open to imagination how the country can move into chaos, right? Like all the problems you see in Kashmir and everywhere, militancy and things. It's essentially when young people are willing to pick up arms and throw rocks at police forces for 200 rupees, it's unfortunate that we're not doing enough to promote entrepreneurship. So it's very critical, and I would like to make a case with a few other examples as well, specifically on healthcare. But I think this is broadly relevant to each of you. And please don't consider this as a healthcare issue or a technology issue. Or I'm not an engineer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not. So it's very sector agnostic. I think the criticality for creating a startup business is just collaboration. You have to find the right people and work with the right people, ensure, because everybody comes with their own different set of skills, right? And I think it's not stressed enough in India how much sales plays an important role. You guys are all graduating from MBA either this year or next year. How many of you are planning on getting into sales? Nobody. Everybody is going into business and finance and operations, and nobody is willing to go to sales. And that's tragic. Why? Why does nobody want to get into sales? I'm selling right now. I'm a salesman. I'm selling the job role of entrepreneurship, and I'm selling the need. So why does nobody want to take up sales? This is very upsetting. Okay, I'll actually answer that myself. Especially coastal Karnataka and the South Canada, right? We have a little bit of a bias against sales. Sales is seen as a little bit of a denigrated job role, unfortunately, and that's really, I think that's really something we need to overcome. About like 3 years ago, I was interviewing for sales roles in our company, and then
Can you use the more refined word marketing? Let me see.
yeah, okay, yes, absolutely. Thank you, sir. Can anybody who's willing to get into marketing? Interesting. Okay, that's good. But still, sales, nobody is, right? Sales is very rewarding. I mean, both personally, financially, and very fulfilling as well. So, okay, so I'll just give you a very informal story, which I will say on a no-name basis. So, about 3 years ago, I was hiring for a sales executive for our work, and we had this person who came for the interview, and I asked her. I've disclosed the gender, unfortunately, but no names. So I asked her, why are you here? What are you looking for? She's like, I'm looking for a job. I'm like, okay, but why sales though? She's like, I think I can be like a good salesperson. Well, I could clearly tell that she was just okay with like any work, any job, and sales requires that very keen, astute sharpness, right, of going about your work in a very particular way. So I just asked, I mean, what do you think sales is? What encapsulates the entirety of sales work? She's like, sales is like mostly you go and you sell and things. It was a little vague. So I was hoping that I can like get her to understand how sales works in the process. So I was like, so you have people coming to your home, right, to sell things. Like there'll be a salesman who will come home selling encyclopedia and things like that. Typically they're the right salesmen, right? They come home and they sell you different things like books or whatever it is. And I asked her, so when they come and they sell, what do you do? And she's like, yeah, my mom takes a broomstick and chases them away. So that's actually the response we all have, right? We don't have a whole lot of respect for salespeople. And I think that's something fundamentally we need to change. And back in the 60s, US had this whole thing. I mean, I think the guy, I don't recall his name, who was running HP was like a very sharp salesperson. So entrepreneurship revolves around selling. I mean, if you are not able to completely sell your idea and your work and who you are as a person, it's very difficult. And let me be very clear. Sales is not just a particular domain. Even if you work in finance or operations, end of the day you are still selling it, right? You can't do like a fantastic work and not have your boss know what you've done, right? That's a very passive outlook of things. That's also primarily why in South Canada we do really well with like science and math and things, because that doesn't require display, right? That ostentatious display of like I did this, look, right? That is not required because your marks and everything will clearly tell you how good you are, how sharp you are, which is good, which is great, but unfortunately, we cannot capitalize only one thing, right? We have to diversify, which means some things which we are not good at, something which we are not naturally good at, we need to like kind of put in an extra effort. And I strongly request each of you to give this some thought, teach yourself a little bit, watch some videos, and really understand the world of sales, because it's going to hit you like a bus very soon, right? Once you're out. I mean, college is nice, it's very comfortable, but once you're in the real world, I think a lot of people from here, we have a limitation of we undersell our work, right? And that is going to be a huge problem. You will not get the right form of reward for the work that you do. Whereas you see, you go to a petrol bunk in Kundapur, you will see a guy from UP selling car wash, and he's so like sharp about it. When do we ever see people from around here work on something like that, right? That's because naturally we're not that those values are not exactly inculcated in us, and I think that's something we need to work on. Coming back. Yes, so I want to talk about some of the other smaller companies that are working in similar domain, so that hoping for some light bulb moments. Yes. So one of my closest peers from Pune, he's working on a sanitary napkin disposal system. So this is a very cool product from a company called BHAT Solutions. So this is another example of technical ingenuity solving a real sociological problem, where disposing sanitary napkins is a huge concern, because not only is it a biological hazard, but there is no way of reusing or recycling it. And they're all across the country right now where you're able to use UV as a form of incinerating it, and the shredded cellulose, they're able to make flower pots and cardboards and a whole lot of things that can be donated. So it's very so end of the day, what I'm trying to say is there is a social impact angle which can be monetized. So a lot of social problems actually have a solution which has a financial value to it, and I think that's something that MBA students need to look at. I mean, you guys are trained to think about problems and solutions, but you don't have to make the solutions yourselves. You can collaborate with other people. So if you're going about building your own business, I think that's the kind of open-minded mindset that needs to go into it. Another peer of mine is working on Illuminate, which is a product for wound detection. So this is a friend of mine called Gitanjali. She works out of Chennai. She's made this very thrifty small sensor which sheds light on any open wounds. Anybody has an open wound and she sheds light on it, and it reflects back, and they're able to pick up what bacteria or what microbes are in there. So this seems like a very cool invention, but monetizing it is very difficult, right? So I mean, it's not private healthcare, yeah, because you can't self-medicate, right? So yes. Yeah. So these are some of the things I want to talk about. I will very briefly sum it up with some of the key lessons that I've learned over the past 6 years. Yeah, first of all, if you are looking at a business that is evolving around solving a problem, find a problem that is worth solving. Do not find a small problem like, okay, I want to make an app for the buses that do travel in Mangalore, right? Like, that's okay. That solves a problem, but is it really big enough to scale, right? And that app culture is kind of really wrecked entrepreneurship in India, I mean, both from buy and demand side. I mean, even venture capitalists are constantly looking at what is the next big application, right? What is the next WhatsApp? What is the next Instagram? Right? And I don't think that's the right way to go about it. So finding a big problem will ensure that the market is big enough. It requires that resilience, but it requires that resilience, and it also implies that there are a whole lot of other people who are also doing something similar. But I think it's worth it. If you're going to build a business around solving a problem, please ensure that it's actually a validated market problem. The best answer, not simply the best answer that you can come up with yourself. This is a quote by Rinaldo, but I think the inference here is to look up to mentors and advisors and people who you can trust with things, right? Start networking. I think that's something that is highly underrated in MBA institutes, because you're not just here to learn about finance and costing and balance sheet and things, right? The whole point is that you need to be industry professionals who can move between verticals and maximize your potential, right? That requires you to learn from people who've done this. So reach out. I mean, it could be through LinkedIn, or it could be through like you meet somebody at like conferences and things like that. But reach out. There are a lot of people out there who have actually who are very keen on like giving back to society through young people. Actually, Mangalore itself has a lot of incubators now. Have you guys heard of incubators, technology business incubators? So they usually have a lot of mentors and advisors who want to help you on brainstorming on ideas for working on a business solution. So I would strongly recommend you guys make use of that. Leverage the ecosystem. Again, like I'm saying, you guys are in college for a very short time. I'm not joking when I'm saying that when you're out of college, life will hit you like a bus. Life is not going to be kind once you're out of college. It's very nice. Your professors like you. Your professors teach you things. You guys have a home. You guys go home, eat food, and the second you're out, nobody cares about you. People will not entertain a conversation with you. Now is the time, because people like students. Everybody can empathize with students. So please leverage that ecosystem. That also means from an entrepreneurship standpoint, there's a lot of funding programs and government granting aids, debt funding, lot of blended finance that is available to you. Leverage that. I'm again telling you this, nobody is going to come out and like lay all of these out to you. You have to do the homework yourself. So if entrepreneurship is something you are seriously looking at, start your research right away, because once you're out of college, this is not going to be possible. If you take how many of you are like a college loan to do your PG? Maybe less than 20%? Okay. So right there, 20% of the people, you definitely need a job at the end of 2 years, right? Otherwise, there's no way to pay back college loan. That is a very tricky situation. Others also, I'm assuming it's not that you're planning on sitting at home after MBA, right? You are looking at work. So it's going to be very sharp, and the pressure, and not just for parents and things, just generally you're completing PG, which means you're quite old now, right? All of it will suddenly surmount, and it's going to be very hard. So any career planning has to happen right away. So please reach out to your peers, reach out to your professors, and plan it out right away. Last part, this is about giving back. So I am telling you something right now because somebody else told me this a couple of years ago, and that means you are obligated to tell this to somebody else a couple of years from now. Keep that process going. See that you give back to your alma mater, your institute, right? HDM has been there for you and like given you this. So ensure that you come back and you give to your alma mater. You give to your juniors. Talk to your juniors. Guide them in like what. The whole point is, when you were younger, all of the problems that you had and somebody helped you, right? You have to be that person now. So yeah, that's just on a very informal note about giving back. With this, I want to wind up my small talk. I would love to hear any questions or queries, specifically, hopefully, on entrepreneurship. But again, I'm a little concerned about sales. So somebody wants to talk about that, I would love to answer questions on that. The marketing guys, yes. I do want to know more about the marketing. Guys, what I saw like a few hands in the back for who want to do marketing. Guys, what is marketing? What is marketing and how is it different from sales?
Creating value for the consumers and then making sure they get the bridge between what they want and
That is marketing.
value.
Okay. And sales is?
Sales is a part of marketing where it's more of pushing your product, what you have,
Right.
and then trying to highlight what is unique in this as compared to others.
And in marketing also you do that?
Yeah, that's a little broader concept than sales. Yeah.
Okay. Any other answers? Anybody who's got a specific idea on what part of marketing they want to work on? Guys, we were actually quite digressed from the theme of the seminar, which is how healthcare is going to be at the forefront, right? Even under the Prime Minister's mandate, it's not just biopharma, it's not just pharmaceuticals and drug development. It's medical devices, it's agriculture-based technology. All of it are supposed to make us that economy that we're like looking forward to. So I'm hoping. I mean, formally it's not something that's taught in MBA unless you're specializing in that, right? But I'm just hoping that you guys are aware of the opportunities that lie ahead of you. I mean, you can't. The whole point of shooting something is you can't shoot a moving thing, right? You have to shoot at where it's going to go. And India is going towards being the healthcare leader of the world, and that's where the opportunity is. So I mean, I would love to talk in details about that. The one part that I left out in the leverage ecosystem was the availability of grant aid and funding for small startup companies, which is a whole 1 hour session in itself. So I didn't want to get into details of that. But other than that, again, please reach out to the incubators. I think KTech is an incubator in Manipal, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And STEM, yeah, and KTech is also here, right?
Yeah, it is there. It is there.
Yeah. So you guys should definitely reach out. There are a lot of engineers there who don't know what to do with their products. So tell them, I will come, I will join hands with you. Let's get a founders agreement. We'll, I have done my MBA. I understand the B in it, right? And you don't. So let's work together. Let's like make a good venture out of it. So reach out, get out of your comfort zone. Everybody does not have to do everything. Everybody does not come with everything. So balancing and juggling that act is what is very important. I have 2 other co-founders, and all 3 of us do very different things. So, and we never tread into each other's territories. We know that each of us is just as important as the other, and that's the only way to keep things in balance and keep things going. So please do. I mean, Bangalore has so many institutes. So another reason of why job creation is important. About 15 to 20 engineering colleges, I think, in the entire belt, right, of this region, which with almost very minimal job opportunities. I mean, other than like MRPL and these regions, right, for cutting edge R&D and technology development, there's almost no job opportunity. If you look at Udupi district, I am from Udupi. If you look at Udupi district, if you Google it, you can see that the biggest source of economy or job creator is mostly agriculture and fisheries. And there's almost no scope of like skill-based job creation in there, right? It's already saturated quite significantly now. Which means everybody just flocks to Bangalore. How many of you are planning to go to Bangalore, by the way? After one, that's it.
I think some are there, sir.
I think it's mostly, yeah. They're quite energy, others are okay. Bangalore is, right? No? Yeah, I mean, that's where the jobs are. Anybody, the rest of you want to be here or do you mean some other place? Sorry, I didn't picture it that way. You want to go to Dubai? Come. Not through placement though, right? You want to directly go look for it. So essentially most of you are pretty much looking at options outside of this region. And that's, I think, something that we need to fix. The whole end game of entrepreneurship is creating jobs, ensuring there isn't brain drain from here. Right? We talked about how OPA and Kamakshi are always like topping in math and science. But where are they at the end of the day? Right? They're all shifting away. That's what we want to retain. That's where you guys come in. Thank you guys. Thank you. I'm sorry.
John F. Kennedy said, we must find time to thank the people who make a difference in our life. We at SDM firmly believe in this. Hence, I call upon Ms. Pratiksha to deliver the vote of thanks.
No matter what language you speak, a kind and smiling thank you always speaks to everyone's heart. I deem it a great privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this occasion. First and foremost, I would like to thank Mr. MAYUR SHETTY, who despite his busy schedule has taken time to grace this occasion. Thank you, sir. Now I request Ms. Deepa Nayak to kindly honor our guest with citation and memento. Thank you, ma'am. And I also thank Mr. Nagesh Mohan Bhatt for being eye-opener and motivating us with your thoughtful words. Thank you, sir. I request Mr. Don Prakash to kindly honor our guest with citation and memento. Thank you, sir. I owe a special gratitude to our director, Dr. Seema Yashanai, for her continuous guidance and encouragement. I would like to express our sincere gratitude to our session in charge, Ms. Deepa Nayak. Thank you, ma'am. And I also thank all the teaching and non-teaching staff for their presence. Thank you. Finally, I would like to thank all my friends for the active participation. Thank you, one and all.
Now I kindly request Don sir to update about the Sensex contest.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dignitaries on and off the days. So this is only for the participants. The participants can just look into their registration folder. We have an exciting Sensex contest which we are going to be playing. The logic is very simple. It's free entry for one and all. As you know, Sensex we close at 3:30. So we have already mentioned the rules and regulations which I would like to read out. So the ones who have taken the registration file, there is a sheet inside that you can just open it up. I'll just take 1 minute.